Welcome to NWEA Basics for Teachers, the class report. This is what the class report looks like. In our last video, we looked at the class summary area. We're going to be scrolling down now and going to the second page, which has some of the similar information, but a little bit more information on it. We're going to be concentrating on this central part of the page, the performance area. First part we're going to look at is the overall performance. It's this top line across the top, the cross. And you'll notice that it has been divided, or the scores have been divided into quintiles from low up to high with 20 points, percentile points in each one. So 0 to 20, all the way up to 80 to 100. And this is for overall reading. Even though this is a mathematics class, this is Mr. Reband's results for his students in reading. You'll notice as we look at this that Mr. Reband doesn't have any students in the low area. He has one in low average. Most of his students are up in the high area. You'll notice this is also color-coded so that I can look at this and tell at a glance that there are no students in the low area. There's no red. And as I go on up, then I can tell that they're most of his students. So I get a general idea of the level that his students are on with the color coding. And then I can look at actual numbers or actual percentages. If I move down to the next block of data, reading has been divided into 3 different goal areas. And you'll notice that there's a difference in performance. Just at a glance, you can tell there's a difference in performance in each of these goal areas that varies from what you saw in the overall performance, so that we can tell quickly that vocabulary acquisition and use is a relative weakness for Mr. Reband's class, at least this particular class during this testing. And then if I move over, I also get the numerical information when I need that too. So that I can see that he's got only 1 student in the low average for vocabulary acquisition and usage. He has 2 students in informational text. And he has 3 down in literature. So I get the numbers there, but I see at a glance over here. Moving from percentiles over to the RIT scores, this gives me the RIT scores, both the mean and median RIT for the class, so that I can see about what the median or the central or the average student for his class is. And notice that it varies slightly between the different goal areas also. And then if I look at the median RIT, notice that they're close, but they're not exactly the same. And again, that's because, as we discussed before, in small classes, your data may be affected by 1 or 2 students. And so it may look quite different. So we're going to concentrate mostly on the median RIT. Standard deviation is also shown. Remember that we talked in the last video about standard deviation and the importance of standard deviation information. From 0 to 10, students are very similar in skill or skills that they demonstrated. From 10 to 14, there's a bit of variation. And above 14, there's quite a bit of variation. So let's look at this a little closer. For Mr. Reband's entire class, he's got a standard deviation shown of 13.1. So this would be within the 10 to 14, where he could make a decision whether he needs to do some differentiation or not. But if I look more closely down in the goal areas, I can see that the scores for vocabulary acquisition are still within that 10 to 14 range. And so it may not be necessary to do much differentiation for vocabulary acquisition and usage, but both informational text and literature, there's more of a standard deviation. So he has some students who would benefit much more from having some differentiation, from him choosing the appropriate, or making sure that the text is appropriate for their level, and making sure if that's not, that he's scaffolding and offering some extra assistance for those students who are scoring in these lower areas. One thing to remember is that students who are below 20 percentile may not benefit very much from standard core instruction because they may be so far behind that the material is just either totally confusing or just very frustrating for them. So they will need some scaffolding in that area. Students are in this high area, especially above 90%. The same goes for them. They may not benefit from core instruction necessarily because they may be past that. They may already know this information. So to foster growth for both the low and the high percentile areas, you will need to do some differentiation so that they can grow and proceed and continue to make progress too. Check back with us on the next video. We'll be talking about the individual results that are shown on the next section.